Okay, well, my name is Ray Goodsir. I come originally from Sydney in Australia. I finished 2 university degrees there, which might be of interest, one in mathematics, pure mathematics, and the other one, and I went and got a job in computers with IBM, to be precise, and then spent another 4 or 5 years, 5 years in fact, studying philosophy and literature, English literature. Then I decided to travel. I went to Paris, spent 6 years there in a technical job. After 6 years there, I thought, well, I speak French, but now I maybe should get back to English. Found a job in Amsterdam, and Den Haag to be precise, with a Shell. Stayed there for 5 years. In the middle of that, we started our own consultancy company here in the Netherlands, and it went from a technical consultancy on databases to a management consultancy in the 90s. And I stayed with them. We eventually sold the company in 1997. I left the company in 2009, and I'm now running my own small training and consultancy company, focusing mainly on business development skills and personal development skills.
So on the note of knowing who you are, finding yourself in your life, how did you come to know yourself, develop yourself? Is it that you find yourself? Is it that you create yourself?
I think by a combination of mistakes, basically. Some things fit together. I think most people would agree that if you can, that there is a power that comes from someone who knows what they want. You know, there are various, you can put it in mystical terms or whatever it is. There's a famous cult movie called The Secret, you know, which can be very misinterpreted, but basically, I'm not an expert on it, but if the idea is that what you think you get, or the law of attraction, it may or may not be mystical. It may be simply as simple as the fact that if I tell you something I want, and I'm looking for a job in such and such, or I want to buy a black Mercedes car or something, then I'm broadcasting that. People know that I want a job, or they know that I want a black Mercedes car, so it's perfectly natural when you come across one and say, oh, there's one, hey, Ray might be interested in that. So whether or not it's a mystical thing, talking about energy attraction, or whether it's not, it's just clarity of what you want, there is a power that you can sense when someone is doing what they like. A woman called Uta Haag, I came to this via sports, arts being theatre and literature, and then what I saw in work. So, to give you an example from the arts, there's a woman called Uta Hagen. I think she's American, but sounds like a Swedish or Nordic name. She said there's nothing more powerful than an actor, in perfect health, who knows his or her craft. And as an actor, what I found, the thing I learnt there, was very much you have to know who you are, which might sound immensely strange because most people, particularly in business, think acting means being false. But if you want to get someone to act, well, I like to use the example of Hamlet. You know, if I want Mentor to act Hamlet, we can have wonderful talks about is he mad or is he not mad. That's in fact, I'm studying that with my daughter now. There's things like, why is he pretending to be mad? Is he genuinely mad? If so, why? We have wonderful talks about it. But if you have to act it, we have to agree on, and I'm the director or your co-actor, we have to agree on an interpretation. I can't act with you if 1 minute you're going to be mad and the next minute you're not going to be mad, and I don't know what's going on. And what's worse, if you don't know what's going on, if you leave it arbitrarily, or you don't know, then you have to connect it to things in yourself, like what would make you kill someone? What would make you act like that, the way he acts towards Ophelia? What would you be thinking if you didn't kill the king when you had the opportunity to do it? He didn't kill him because the king was praying. His uncle who killed his father was praying, so he didn't kill him because he thought, well, he's all his sins are being forgiven at the moment, so I'm not going to do that. So you've got to really, really, really know who you are, and at any stage of the play, for example, a bad actor will get thrown if the cup falls off the table or something like that. You cannot stop in the middle of a play and say, "Oh dear, sorry, the cup's fallen. I'll put it there."
No.
You have to be so completely into it. And the end of that, of course, is method acting, which is another thing where the idea is you are such a good actor, you have such good life experience. If you have to be sad for 300 nights in a row, you can draw on 300 or 150 experiences. So you really have to know yourself. That made a big mark on me when I saw people in business giving PowerPoint presentations and saying, how can I deliver slides when I don't really believe what's on the slide? Mm-hmm. And I was extremely surprised by that, because the first question is, well, why are you talking about a slide that you don't believe in? And of course there are reasons, the main one being my boss has gone on holidays and said, "Ray, will you do this sales presentation because you're the only one in the office?" There are various ways around that, but it started me thinking about how can you act with integrity, with being true to yourself in a business environment. Because if you don't know who you are, you're extremely vulnerable. This theme is taken up most recently, funnily, in a book called Crucial Conversations, where they say the most important conversations, their number one recommendation is start with the heart. And what they mean by that, as far as I understand, is figure out what you really believe. Mm-hmm. So I believe, when I say I came to this experience of making mistakes, I believe that most people, including myself, start out being quite reactive, and their reactions are determined by things that get commonly known as filters. Mm-hmm. Many words for this in the psychology or the half psychology courses that I've done is filters are mental models, is mentioned by Peter Senge, is the one I use, where he says, if I think my elder daughter is sportive and my younger daughter is aggressive, I will keep talking to her as though she's aggressive and trying to protect the other daughter from her. So what I believe will come through. I will project it. If I think something about you, then
it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It's a self-fulfilling. Yeah, exactly. And there are many funny examples about that, but I won't go into it. But now how do you get through that? Well, number one way you get through it is when you have a problem. And I believe in business or an issue, it might even go back to things like, what do I like? I'm an entrepreneur. I want to start a business. One has to go. I believe you have to go back to what is my real problem? What is my real desire? So supposing what a good example is that this comes across in many ways in Dutch. It comes across a thing called key qualities or kernkwaliteit, and the basic message is that when you meet someone who really annoys you, you should turn around and say, "Thank you, you're one of my greatest teachers," because this person really annoys you, but they don't annoy everyone around them. You might look around you. There's not often you find yourself in a situation where you really take a dislike to this person, or they really get under your skin, but other people aren't reacting. When you come across that sort of situation, whether it's in a boss or a colleague or a partner or a girlfriend or husband, then I believe instead of just reacting, you have a duty, not if you want to advance in life, to say, what is my problem? Why am I reacting like that? For example, one of the courses where I learned this on is I particularly don't like aggressive people. Mm-hmm. I can get very annoyed with aggressive people. Why? Well, of course, I had, and probably still have, will always have, a problem in that I'm quite aggressive, but I've got I'm an aggressive sportsman. I've got strong ideas, but I've got the English politeness. I'm Australian, but with English background. So what I've had to learn is I can be aggressive on the sporting court, because not doing what David Nalbandian did yesterday, kicking the siding, so I heard he hurts the judge. But I've always just fought like hell. But when it comes verbally, I needed to learn to be assertive. So I had to learn to say what I wanted, and at the same time take the risk of being disliked, which is what the core of it. My upbringing was, you should figure out what other people want, figure out how to do that, and And I've done that. It makes me very happy doing sales, management, communicating, all that. Makes me weak when I have to be assertive, when I have to deal with aggressive people. So the key message there, is when I find someone who there's a quality I don't like, I have to go back and say, wait a minute, it's not them, Ray. It's not them. They are doing what is your problem. And when I figured out what is my problem, I'm then in a position to make a request to that person, say, it doesn't have to be in a loud, aggressive voice, but it can be simply saying, no, that's not something I actually accept. I'd rather work in a different way. So I don't have to yell at them, sort of say, no, for hell, get out of here, that's not what I accept, because they're talking to me like that. But I must, if I'm clear, I can come back with an immensely powerful statement. Why do I think this is a key quality key skill to have in life? Because if you want to fight through in an honest way that doesn't stress you like crazy, doesn't result in you becoming a person without integrity, having a complete mental breakdown, you have to learn how to navigate through what is commonly called office politics, or just working with other people. Working with other people is very difficult. Particularly I love the old Chinese statement, I think it is, it says, Chinese curse, which is, I wish you many employees. Because you find when people's egos come into it, then to navigate honestly through that, I think there's only one solution to that, and that is to know yourself.
Current society, you see a lot of people of which you would think that they have no idea who they are. I mean a lot of people who openly express that they have no idea who they are and that they find that very difficult.
I see a lot of people, there's two major flaws that I see coming across is people who are searching for the answers outside themselves, the answers to problems that, for example, even let's take being an entrepreneur, people looking to talk to other people about what's needed in the marketplace, rather than looking and having faith in their own judgment. I found a phenomenal thing happens to me since, as you know, I do a lot of talking in public. If you ask me a question, I will answer it. If I'm in the audience and you're talking, I will probably ask the question. So I will probably say, if I'm talking about entrepreneurship, I will answer your question. If you're teaching it, I will ask you a question, like, what about the case where you're not actually certain where your passion lies? How would you handle that mentor? If I'm up on stage, I will give the answer. So I've noticed that some funny energy comes when I'm put on the spot and I'm the person who has to give the answer. But I see a tremendous tendency for people to look to other people for the answers. And what I see perhaps more dangerously, but perhaps more subtly, in relationships between couples and relationships between people at work, and most particularly with their companies and their bosses, is reactive behavior. So instead of, if you're my boss, and I'm unhappy about something, without working out what it is, I just turn on you and can start complaining about you and the company's rotten, without actually taking the trouble to figure out what is it that I want to do that I'm being blocked doing by either you or by the company in question. I see that very, very, very frequently, and the result, the evidence of that is, what's the word for it? Not the evidence, but the way you see that in action is people changing jobs stupidly from one to the other, or making terribly reactive decisions about on-the-spot decisions about selling houses, stopping relationships. Relationships is the best one, I keep repeating the pattern. You keep going out with the same type of girlfriend or boyfriend and dumping them or leaving them or for someone who's pretty much exactly the same. It's well known. Many people look at the boyfriend or girlfriend of someone and say, but she or he is just the same as the one you had before. What's going on? So what is going on there? Why are you repeating a pattern? There's maybe nothing wrong with it, but what is it that then you start to get into heavy psychology stuff? Do you marry your father or your mother? Do you start repeating the problems? And etc., etc. But I think in order to navigate, that's the evidence I see of it is in restless behaviour, breaking up in relationships, and lack of success in jobs, and more the evidence I see in the positive side is when you get someone who is clear, who really wants to do it. The enthusiasm and the clarity carry everyone with them. Mm-hmm. And mostly if you meet someone like that, generally, unless they're psychopathic, which is perhaps the other possibility, well, even if they are, they have an energy that carries you along. If you can combine that energy with knowledge of self, I believe
some
you're on a winner.
psychopaths tend to be very charismatic.
Yes, you get charismatic psychopathic.
So, where to start? Say that you're in one of these situations, you have no idea who you are, know quite a few people. What would you tell them? Or what is your experience in how do you figure something like this out?
There's probably there's any number of, I guess, what you'd call self-help books out there. Sort of, I found doing some Buddhist meditation a tremendous help, which is depending on the form of meditation you do, takes you the classic thing being take time to look at your thoughts and see what's going on. Take time to realise the famous Buddhist thing that if you want to live in the present, most people spend their time looking at running videos of what happened in the past and being worried about what happens in the future. So being aware of what is happening to you now, why you're happy or unhappy now, what's going on around you. That's a good start. Then you should have a list of books. There are various books that I've read and courses that I've been on, which help you to get to know yourself. I think Buddhism or studies like that is a harmless one, because it's certainly not cult stuff or anything like that. I went to a couple of courses called Turning Point and Point of Choice in London. There's things you can. There's Byron Katie is a woman who's on the web, quite controversial, but she talks about doing the work. For example, she says when you're upset about someone, when you decide that I hate my boss because he's extremely arrogant, she starts with question number 1: is it true? Question number 2 is it really true? Question number 3 is how would you be without that thought? Mm-hmm. And then what she's getting at there is I'm really upset because I believe my boss is arrogant or ignoring me, and that's the thought. It's the thought that is playing in there. Shakespeare says nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Mm-hmm. So it's very much going back to the Buddhist thing. It's in you. You might be sitting on a beautiful day in the park, as worried as hell about something that's going to happen in a week or may happen in a week. Why can't you just enjoy the moment, and that's on condition you don't have to do anything to prepare for what's going to happen in a week. I'm not saying Byron Katie's the most wonderful person in the world. Some people think she's a fake for various reasons, but she's got a very good thing she calls the turnaround. Then say, supposing I think my boss is really arrogant, she does a turnaround saying, how about play with the statement, my boss is not arrogant, he's quite submissive, or my problem is that I, Ray Goodsir, am being arrogant. That's interesting. So let's turn those things you can turn around. One of the ones I learnt, which you might like to get people to thing, is write down a list of people, characteristics that you hate about people. I wrote down when I did this, aggressive people and shy people. I forget the rest. Then pretend you're God and turn around, give those people the opposite quality, but a positive one. Mm-hmm. So the opposite to shy is extrovert, because it's generally positive. What's the opposite to aggressive? You can't have submissive or weak So it's got to be the word you pick. I picked caring. Mm-hmm. And the teacher I was dealing with said, okay, being caring and extrovert, Ray, are the masks you wear to hide the qualities in yourself you haven't come to terms with. Mm-hmm. Actually, I wasn't surprised by the caring, because as I mentioned before, being assertive, that's what I had to learn. I was surprised by shy, because it made me realise that I'm not. I love being extrovert, I love performing, I love theatre, I love talking, but I need very much time by myself to recover. I've got a very big technical component in me that needs time to think and reflect, and I hadn't given that space. So how to start? I know I maybe just start by looking at the literature, start by maybe reading some Buddhist books. The Buddha Tibetan Way of Living and Dying by Sogyal Rinpoche is a good one to start with, or look around at some self-development courses.
Yeah. So don't reinvent the wheel, take the knowledge out there first.
Yes. Or a friend of mine called Florian Schlosser, if I can mention him, is a German guy who I happen to know, been on some of his courses. He talks very much about being in the present, feeling the energies in the present. He teaches courses. He's got videos on YouTube. Currently, he does courses with his wife Julia, and I think he's got a lot of very valuable stuff to say. But I think those tips would lead you into that world if you're interested. I don't advocate going and joining cults or anything like that, but sort of I think there's an awful lot of good teachers around.
Right. Yeah. If you find them.
If
you know where to look.
Yes. By the way, my fee rate is sort of €400. No.
Find you online. In the current education system.
Yeah.
Do you think this? I think I already know the answer, knowing you. But do you think this stimulates, inhibits, or deals with this rightly or wrongly? Knowing yourself, getting to know yourself.
No, I don't. I think very little attention. You're right. You can guess my answer. I think very little attention is paid to it, depending on the culture you're in and the problems they face. For example, in the Netherlands, as a foreigner here in the Netherlands, what I understand, the culture is extremely cognitive. Netherlands is, as far as I know, maybe wrong, quite well known for turning out mathematicians and physicists. Bit of a surprise for me coming from Australia, where schools in Australia and New Zealand, I think still, put quite a lot of emphasis on sport, an increasing emphasis, definitely in New Zealand, I know, on theatre activities such as that. I think in schools in England, it's the theatre activities and everything, or extracurricular has been pared down, taken down. So I think a lot of teachers are aware of the need for balance in education. You get things like the Montessori schools and the Steiner schools and everything like that. I think two things go wrong. So I do think schools don't stimulate creativity. Why? Well, a couple of things. I think one, the system, where the answer to everything seems to be to shove more and more and more into the curriculum. Why can't we change quickly? Well, I can see the problem. For me, it's an administrative problem. What are you going to do if you decide, well, really, it's not much use teaching Greek or Latin anymore? We have a large number of Greek and Latin teachers. We have a large number of university faculties teaching this. It's a non-trivial change. And if we're going to drop subjects because we think we're overloading children, what are we going to drop? So in a way, it's a classic case of, I think, the bureaucracy gone crazy. I don't think it's the fault of evil teachers or evil ministers designing education, but I think the result is that we exhaust we do tend to kill creativity. Picasso was a famous one who said, I think all children are born creative, but it gets beaten out of them. The challenge, I think he said, is to maintain that creativity into adult life. It's very hard to do when I see things here in the Netherlands, like people dropping out of the theatre school and the New Amsterdam Children's Choir my girls are members of, because the homework load gets heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier.
Yeah.
And then that plays then onto parents' fears of security. If they don't do their homework, they're not going to get a good university degree, they're not going to get a good job. So basically, I don't think schools promote creativity, but I can see the reasons why.
We already briefly touched on this, but do you think that finding yourself, is that there is you yourself and you need to discover that? Or are you a work in progress, and do you decide who you want to be and work towards that?
Or
perhaps a combination of both?
That's an extremely good question. I think Yeah, extremely good question, because yes, of course people can learn new skills and change jobs, learn new skills. I don't think there's any limit on the way you can define yourself as to whether or not you happen to be someone who's likes looking after a national game park and living in a hut and looking after bears, or whether you're a top Wall Street financial person or an entrepreneur or someone who works in a shop. I do think it helps to know. It helps to know what your filters are, at least, because I think we're all brought up with certain filters, prejudices, whether we're coming from parents or the society we live in. I think if you wanted to be the famous term enlightened, which I certainly am not sure what it means, then I guess it'd be a lifelong job to remove those filters and see and connect yourself to just what am I when I'm not acting in what is the essential me. I think that's a very valuable aim. I don't think one needs to do that. I think in order to lead a happy, fulfilled life, you have to get rid of some of the major things that can push you into acting against your own self-interest. In other words, unless you figure out why you're being reactive, why certain things annoy you, you cannot clear the field, in my opinion, to do things that you really like, that really give you pleasure, and therefore give you a chance to succeed in life and carry relationships and work colleagues with you.
Yeah. Lastly, do you have a golden piece of advice, something you say, well, if you don't do anything else, then at least do this?
Oh, well, that's if you don't do anything else, at least do this. I'd say yes. I have one of my favourite quotes here. Beware of falling into the trap of classifying things too definitely as right or wrong. I'm thinking of what may be becoming an increasingly well-known statement by the poet Rumi. Have you ever heard of Rumi?
Mm-hmm. No, but I think
R-U-M-I. He, of course, I know it in translation. He's an old Persian or Iranian poet, and he has a beautiful statement that says, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there.
Mm-hmm.
To me, what that says is, please God, spare me from people who are so bigoted they know what is right and wrong. Please let me keep an open mind and look at what is inside me and why I react the way I do before I judge.
Okay, that's a good one. It's actually quite similar to this Shakespeare quote you
Yes.
put up earlier.
Yes.
So, any last remarks that you'd like to share?
Well, I'm trying. Now you've got me started on poetry. I'm trying to think of any last. But no. I think it's very important. I don't think it's important what you do. The Buddhist statement said all life is simply about chop wood, carry water, chop wood, carry water, chop wood, carry water.
Mm-hmm.
So in the end, it really doesn't matter what you do. I mean, who cares if you're President, Director General of Shell, if you're the world's greatest tennis player, this sort of thing. The thing itself is not important. What's important that while you're alive, you wanted to do that and were happy doing that. I think that's what's important. So when you get to the end of the life, in fact, my mother just died. When you get into the hostel, the old home, nobody, your life is worth about probably less than a week. By the time you've been there a week, everybody's heard your life story. So unless you're happy with it, you ain't going to die happy. So I would say figure out who you are and what you would like to do, and do it.
And do it. That sounds good.
Thank you. Probably if I thought harder.